It's time to move on from the loss against the Kansas Jayhawks. We're going to talk about the Utah Utes and the matchup this weekend for the 1965 throwback game for the West Virginia Mountaineers here today on the Walk Thru GameDay Show.
Look at what happens when you're consistent, again, in all three phases of the game. Look at what happens when you're focused and you don't have the mental breakdown and the MAs that prevent you from doing exactly what they did in Stillwater.
Rich Rodriguez has a strong backing. Ken Kendrick, Pat McAfee, Ike Morris, so on and so forth. There's a lot of people with deep pockets that are ready to help this football team win.
Your lightning in the bottle guy is your lightning in your bottle guy. So sometimes you can't put him in that role because he's going to get beat up and nicked up throughout the course of the game, which does take away from his flashiness and his ability to make big plays.
Give me the Mountaineers, baby.
But yeah, this rivalry it's a lot of fun. It has to keep going.
Let's go Mountaineers. All day, every day. Let's go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Walk Thru GameDay Show presented by West Virginia on SI. I'm Schuyler Callihan. That is Eugene Napoleon, the legendary Mountaineer running back. We've got to talk a lot about this upcoming game in terms of injuries, situation, the matchup. We'll get into all of that, and we'll also talk about, can the Mountaineers still get to a bowl game? That is looking a little dicey at the moment here, Gene, but we'll talk about all of that here on today's show. West Virginia falls to Kansas last week 41-10, just an outright ugly performance in the Big 12 opener. Probably even more question marks now going into week 5 than there was in week 4, and at this point you would hope that wouldn't be the case, but here we are. So Gene, let's go and start with this injury situation. I mean, it's like, where do you want to start? You got the quarterback situation. You got Nico banged up. He's got a foot thing. He's out in Colorado seeing a specialist, or he was out there in Colorado at least at the time of this taping. And then you have at the running back spot, Ty Edwards still dealing with a hip pointer. He's questionable. Sincere Bowers, your guy, is questionable in the concussion protocol. And you've got a couple of banged up offensive linemen. So this is not what you want to have, especially for a team that is already struggling to move the ball and score.
It's tough. And you know what's interesting about when you get into this part of the season, even though it's only week 5, it's a brutal, brutal game. We know this. Football is a brutal game, right? You're in week 5 and you're already having these type of injuries, and to your point, yeah, you were struggling prior to these injuries. So now you stack on all these injuries, and you got to look at this and say, man, if it wasn't for bad luck, West Virginia wouldn't have any luck at all. So how do how do you figure
Amen to that.
this out where you want to make sure that you don't lose your locker room because of the record, because don't get it twisted. These guys are looking at the schedule too.
Oh, and hey, where are we at right now, Gene? We're at the 4-game mark. What's that mean? What's that mean?
Listen.
I'm just saying. And,
yeah.
And it's not the same situation like at Virginia Tech or UCLA where coaches have been fired, which I think is ridiculously stupid in my opinion. If you're going to fire a guy, whatever, but at least wait past the 4-game mark so you don't have a bunch of kids quitting on you in the middle of the season. But
that's the key. Absolutely.
That's neither here nor there. But the injury situation here, like, you're already 2-2. You lost to Ohio. You got blown out by Kansas. It's not looking good. You got a bunch of guys banged up. You're hoping, like you're saying here, you don't want this team to fracture just because they can kind of see things slipping away.
And again, I'm not advocating that is the case, but I'm advocating that could happen.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not wishing that to happen, but let's be realistic about it. These young people, these young men are only human. At the end of the day, you're going to take a good hard look and an assessment at where you are at this point in the season. And even though there's a lot of football to be played, let's be clear. So let me preface this by saying, relax, take a breath, calm down, relax. Yeah, okay. The bottom line is, here's where you have to make a move. Honestly, here's where you have to make a move. If that's a move in your personnel, if that's a move in what you decide to do offensively, defensively, special teams wise, the whole nine, all three phases of the game, if you're going to do it, here's where you have to do it, because here's the pivotal part of the season. If you don't make a move now and it stays the same, I don't know how many more games on this schedule West Virginia will be able to win if you don't make the pivotal moves now. So whatever Rich Rod and the staff decides to do, they have to do it now, and it has to start this weekend in Morgantown.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of things to fix. And he kind of mentioned it on his coach's show on Monday night that, like, yeah, they're open to making some changes along the offensive line. But then he came back on Tuesday during his press conference and said, well, we're trying to motivate those young guys, and but if they were that close to the starters, or if you had a couple of guys close, then they would have already rotated them in at this point. And I'm just like, oh, well, there's your answer. The offensive line depth is not very good. So if they can't get in over, I'm not going to single guys out, but you know who they are at this point.
Right.
Then that's problematic. But in regards to the running back situation, because I think that is more of an issue than the quarterback situation, just because, look, you're already repping multiple guys. You're repping 5 guys, actually, at the quarterback spot every single week. We've seen multiple quarterbacks play every game. So you're going to naturally see another quarterback. The running back spot, though, Gene, you have Jaheim White's out for the year. We already know that. But now you have Ty Edwards potentially missing his second straight game. You have
Right.
Sincere Bowers now out. Well, not out, but potentially out.
Right.
Hypothetically speaking, I talked about this earlier in the week on Between the Years, but I want to get your take on it.
Mm-hmm.
If Edwards is ruled out and if Bowers is ruled out, that leaves you with Clay Ash, Dior Hubbard, Tyler Jacklich, and Andre Devine, and maybe Cannon Katzer. We don't know. He's still trying to come back from his injury that he has not yet played yet this season. So don't know about him. If that is the case, and that's your stable of backs for Saturday against this stingy, salty Utah defense, what's the game plan? What's the rotation? What's the division of labor if Coach Eugene Napoleon's in there coaching this game on Saturday?
Well, think about it this way. You've already had Clay Ash has had more reps than anybody in that room outside of, I would say probably White, because, so he's the most experienced. He's the most experienced back in that room. If that's the case, then you're going to have to probably sit him down and say, listen,
you're going to have to run the ball.
Obviously, we're going to start you because here's where we are, right? But I need you to do me a favor. I need you. Listen, I really need you to run like you never ran before. I need you, when we run these inside zone reads, I need you to hug the line of scrimmage, meaning that I don't want no false moves, no false steps. I need you to hit it and hit it quick. I'm going to need at least 4 to 5 yards per carry out of you. I need that, okay? Because that's going to set us up in other opportunities in the pass game. And if we don't get the running game going, there's not going to be a pass game.
Game over.
Yeah, and I don't want to run my quarterback 30 times.
You might have to.
That's the thing that, from a running back's perspective, that's what you dream. You dream of having your running back coach sit down and your head coach sit down and your OC sit down and tell you that. Oh, you dream of that. You're licking your chops. That's what you dream of. Schuyler, you go to bed just eyes blinking. You don't even because you
can't even sleep.
Can't even sleep because you're so excited about that. I'm hoping that's where Clay Ash's mentality is for this Utah game, because that's where it's going to have to be. Now, after him, you got to sit down with the other backs and say, look here, This is going to be a rotation by committee type game. You're going to get some carries. I need you to make the best out of every carry that you get. If you can break a few, thank goodness. Thank God. We're going to need all of this. We really are. But that's really what the backs should be thinking anyway. It just so happens that because of the injuries, you're almost forced into that role.
Yeah.
Honestly, Hubbard should be licking his chops, to be honest with you.
I mean, this is a guy that we've been talking about for months, thinking that he was going to be maybe even the third back in this rotation, and that was including Jalen Knighton before we knew he was going to be ineligible. We thought he was maybe number 3 or number 4 in the depth chart. We still haven't really seen him get a serious burn in a game. We saw him a little bit last week, but it was mop-up duty, whatever. But this is a huge opportunity for him throughout the week and then potentially on Saturday to kind of say, hey, I can be a part of this thing. And with Clay Ash, look, I know I've been a little hard on him and stuff, but I mean, look, the stats just they tell the story. I mean, he's averaging 2.6 yards a carry, 28 carries, 74 yards. His longest carry of the year has been 11 yards. I mean, it's just not working for him on the ground. However, he does have value. He knows where he's supposed to be. He knows his role, his assignment, and he's one of the best pass protectors of that running back group. So you start watching the tape and you even look at the PFF grades to back it. I don't know the PFF grades off the top of my head or anything, but I know it's got to be pretty solid because he's been picking up blitzes pretty consistently. So he's going to get his opportunities continued this week. So
I would think so. Get that man his props.
Yeah. Not like you said, just maybe double that 2.6 to 4.2, 4. We're not saying 7 or 8 yards a pop here. We're just talking 4. Get the 4 yards, complement it with some quarterback run game, and all of a sudden you maybe got a little something going here.
Maybe. There you go.
So, all right, the path to 6. Maybe at the start of the season we all thought, yeah, absolutely, it's a shoe-in. It's going to happen. There's no way they're going to go 5-7. Well, Gene, here we are, 2-2, and they're double-digit underdogs at home this week against the Utes. We'll get into that matchup here in a little bit, but just speaking the big picture, we got the schedule up here on the screen. You've got Utah this week. Then next Friday, you go to Provo to take on BYU, the late game. Then you have a bye week, a very much-needed one. And then you have UCF, TCU, Houston, Colorado, and then it ends with the toughest part possible with the trip out to Tempe to take on Arizona State, and then you come back home to wrap things up against Texas Tech, who might be the favorite to win the Big 12 now. So where are you going to find 4 more wins, Gene? What are you thinking? Are they out there?
I believe they're out there. All right, I believe they're out there, but I believe it has to be done in a way where these players have to believe that they're also out there. Like, it can't just be coach speak, coach talk. The players have to buy into, okay, we want to get to a bowl. We have to win 4 more football games to do that. Let's start with Utah is week 1. You almost have to forget the other 4 games. Yep. You almost have to forget your 2-2, to be honest with you, right? So Utah is week 1, and you really have to take it week by week at this particular point, because what that will allow you to do is stop worrying about what happened in the past 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks. Stop that and just horn in on this particular opponent. A lot of times when teams get like this, where you're 2-2, you got blown, you're coming off a week, you got blown out. You don't like it. You don't like the taste in your mouth. You can't wait to get out here to play at home against Utah. You can't put yourself in a grinder, so to speak, where you're so frustrated. You start pressing too hard. You start making just too many, obvious mistakes on top of the injuries that you already have. Control what you can control. So you know what that means? To a man, do your job.
Do your 111s, baby.
That's it. So that also means, from a coaching, and I'm sure Rich is doing this, from a coaching perspective, Now we need to horn in on everybody being totally focused on every ounce of what they're supposed to do and knowing it, because that's the only way we're going to get 4 wins out of this, out of the next few weeks. Because I'm going to tell you something. People can say whatever they want about the Big 12. The Big 12
Pretty damn good league, Gene.
yeah, man, they got some pretty good football games going on, Schuyler. They got some really good teams now. They got some really good coached, well-coached teams. So
Yeah.
where do you see 4 wins in this? If we go piece by piece, right? It's hyperbolic to say that we won't get to a bowl game, because I think that's the sky is falling. I don't want to say the sky is falling. I want to say that the sky slipped a little bit, didn't completely fall. Yeah, I just don't want to say it. I don't want to say it, but I know for sure, if to a man the players start taking into account, we have to do better, we have to play better, we have to really stop having all of these these mental breakdowns in the pass game, the blocking game, the tackling, and all that stuff. We can do this. If they believe it, I really believe, Schuyler, we can find 4 wins. Now you're asking me, where are they coming from? I'm not exactly sure where they're coming from, but
You
I'm
only have
saying,
half the answer, which I'll
yeah,
take it. It's more
I'm
optimism
saying,
than I have.
yeah, I'm saying that potentially they're there. Because if you start calling out who now these teams, you're giving them ammo. Now you're giving them locker room wallpaper, and we don't want to do that right about now, Schuyler.
No,
But
that'd be about the last thing you'd want to do.
we don't want to do that. So let's start with Utah. When we get there, we start talking about breaking down the game and everything. Let's start with handling our business this week at home, and I think it starts there.
It's a great point, and I know you mentioned about kind of forgetting the past, and I completely agree with that, with the exception of this one thing. And I want to ask you how you go about navigating this. If you're Rich Rod, or if you're just a leader on this team, you don't want to bank on the past, because it is what it is, and you hear it every week after a game. They have a 24-hour rule: win or lose, you're moving on. You're on to that week's opponent. You can't spend any more time on what just happened. But when you're kind of going through a little bit of tribulation, trials and tribulations, you're trying to figure yourself out, try to get back on track. Is it okay to maybe tap back into what happened that night on September 13th against Pitt in the backyard brawl? Like, how do you conjure up that feeling and that confidence that was displayed on Mountaineer Field that night and put it back out there, whether that's this Saturday or in upcoming games? Because I feel like you kind of want to talk about that, or at least hint at it, because you said, hey, we did it that night. It's possible. We've shown it to be true, but you don't want to live in the past. So how do you go about that?
Honestly, I think that's a players only meeting.
Not something Rod's probably going to bring up.
Yeah, I think that's a players only meeting. And I think that the reason why I say that, because if you're true to what you are telling your locker room, and we have this 24-hour rule, it's almost difficult to go back on that if that's what if that's your
Preaching.
mantra, that's what you're preaching, right? So I think that's incumbent upon the seniors.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, that's incumbent upon the captains to say, you know what? Okay, maybe after practice one of these days, we're going to have a players only meeting, and we're going to sit down and we're going to air out everything we need to air out.
Hammer this ish at.
Yeah, we're going to have to tap into those emotions. And to your point, the best feeling was the Pitt feeling, was coming back, was everybody to a man handling their business. There was no MAs, blown assignments in the latter part of that game, in those 4 to 5 minutes to win that football game. Everything they had to do to win, they did. Where is that? Where's that resolve? Where is that gut check? Where is that hip? We're going to play with, immense intensity, hair on fire type. Not that look.
You play with your hair on fire too much, it's done burn off.
That's it. So all of those things, that's what you have to tap back into. But I don't think that's a coach's meeting. I think that's a players only meeting. That's my humble opinion. I think to get back to that, that's what you're going to have.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, it is a player led thing as much as, coaches want to be, take credit for it. They're never going to publicly do that. And you hear Rich Rod say it all the time, like your team's only as good as your players or your leaders are. And if you don't have great leadership, well, you're probably going to struggle. And
Absolutely.
and that's not necessarily always the case because you could have great leadership and you just may not have the talent. But more often than not, if you have good leadership and a decent football team, then you should at least fall short of your expectations. So, I look at the schedule, and I mean, you look at as of right now, you have three teams that are ranked: BYU, TCU, and Texas Tech, and you could make the argument that there's really five ranked worthy teams on here because Utah was just in the top 25 and fell out. And then
Yep.
Arizona State was in the top 25. They've fallen out, but they're on a surge again. So they're
Yep.
probably going to be ranked by the time you get there. This is just a brutal schedule. I mean, it really is. And you hate to have that kind of a slate in year one, but you can't control it. You just got to go out there and play your best brand of ball and see what happens. So
That's it.
a lot of games left. We'll see. The race to six is on. 2 wins, 2 losses. Who gets the six first? We'll see. Let us know in the comments section, by the way, if you see the Mountaineers get into a bowl game. And Gene, speaking of bowl games, this week's trivia question before we head to our commercial break. This is the third matchup all time between West Virginia and Utah. The first two were bowl games, both of which you probably would like to forget about if you're a Mountaineer fan. The first one was in 1964. Which bowl was it? The Liberty Bowl, the Peach Bowl, or the Sun Bowl? Think on it for just a second. We're going to get to a break, and on the other side, we'll have the answer, Naps Dynamite, and of course, our game preview and pick 'em. So stay tight. We'll get right back here on the Walk Thru GameDay Show.
Let's go, Mountaineer Nation. The final whistle might blow, but the real breakdown is just getting started. Join us right after every WVU game for the Mountaineer Postgame Show. Instant analysis, real talk, and zero fluff. What went right, what went wrong, and what's next. We've got it all for you. Hit subscribe, turn on the notifications, and be part of the conversation. Win, lose, or draw, we're breaking it all down for you, Mountaineer style.
Want the most accurate updates on the West Virginia Mountaineers? Visit West Virginia on SI, the most trusted source on everything WVU. Several stories published every morning, every day before your feet hit the ground. From football, basketball, baseball, recruiting, transfer portal news, and more, we have it all for you. Every angle, every update, every morning. Welcome back to the Walk Thru GameDay Show. That's Eugene Napoleon. I'm Schuyler Callihan. And back to our trivia question. This is the third matchup between West Virginia and the Utes. The first two games were bowl games. The first one happened in 1964. Which bowl was it that they met in back in 64? Was it the Liberty, the Peach, or the Sun? Gene, lock in your answer.
This is a wild guess.
Okay.
A wild guess. I'm going to say the Liberty, the Peach, or the Sun. I'm going to say the Liberty Bowl.
Damn, I thought I was going to stump you this week. You're on a roll, my friend. You got it right. The Liberty Bowl. It is correct. All the way back in 1964 is a 32-6 loss. And the cool thing about this, Gene, I think I actually picked this up from, may have been Tony Caridi earlier in the week. I can't remember who said it, but I did research and it was true that this was the first college dome game ever. It was pretty cool. They did it at the Atlantic City Convention Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey, not too far from you. So that's pretty cool. The Liberty Bowl's not in New Jersey anymore, but hey, pretty cool to see that happen. West Virginia, Utah, probably like a different result. Maybe we'll get one on Saturday. So, you know what time it is, my brother. Napoleon Dynamite. So, let's get into your player to watch for the week for the Mountaineers. Who's it going to be this week, Gene?
I'm going to tell you what's crazy. So, I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. This young man came in the game last week, had a dynamic series, but he had 70-some yards rushing and a touchdown to boot. So Jalen Henry is my player to watch. He's my Napoleon Dynamite player to watch this week. I think that he's going to have a breakout game because I believe he's going to have a breakout game in order for us to have any semblance of a chance to do anything offensively. I think he has what it takes to do what he needs to do in this particular offense that will lead us offensively to some good things on Saturday. And that's what I'm hoping for. So Jalen Henderson, that's my guy. That's who I'm picking for my Napoleon's Dynamite player to watch.
Interesting. I like it because
you
don't know who's going to even start a quarterback, and you're going with the guy that hasn't started a game. I love it. We also know, like we mentioned earlier in the show, Nico's kind of don't know what his situation is going to be. Regardless,
Right.
even if Nico was fully healthy, after what we had seen from Jalen last week, I think you're probably going to see more of him anyways moving forward, especially with all the injuries you have in the running back room. Got to find a way to manufacture your rushing yards, and that's one way to certainly do it. So, taking a look here at some of our other players to watch in this matchup for Utah. I hate going quarterbacks, Gene. You know I hate doing that because it's the easy pick. But for the second straight week, we got to go with this. It's Devin Dampier. The reason I'm doing it is because he's such a dynamic playmaker. He's a dual threat quarterback, very similar to what Jalen Daniels is for Kansas. He completely flipped the identity of that Utah offense, which was just a train wreck a year ago. Now they've got something humming.
Yep.
Of course, not last week against Texas Tech, but he's really dynamic. 71% completion percentage, 7.2 touchdown interception ratio, over 200 yards rushing and a touchdown to go with that. Defensively, I'm going with John Henry Daly. John Henry, baby. John Henry with 21 pressures and tied second nationally, by the way. Love it. John Henry Daly. He is a massive piece to what they do. I watched what he did against Texas Tech, and he was certainly one that popped out to me. And then for the Mountaineers defense, I'm going to go with Michael Coates, the cornerback. He's allowed just 12 yards on 3 catches this season. He's been really sticky in coverage. He's been really good. Teams have tried to shy away from throwing in his direction. Defense wasn't great last week, but there were some bright spots. He was certainly one of them, Michael Coates. So, all right, let's go and start with our game preview, and we'll begin on the Utah offense side here, Gene, and West Virginia's defense. Talked about Devin Dampier a little bit last week. Again, you kind of got a similar taste with Jalen Daniels back there. Very similar stature. They both can hurt you with their ability to extend plays and keep things open. The one thing that I really just jumped out to me when I was doing some of my research, he is not a downfield thrower whatsoever. And I kind of noticed this watching the Texas Tech game. There were some downfield throws he just missed wide open, or just probably had a guy maybe not wide open, but should have put it on the money and didn't. And his release is a little funky too. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it's not really elongated. It's just kind of thunk. Like it's almost like a shot put, but I don't know how to explain it. It's just you'll see it on Saturday if you don't have time to watch tape. But downfield throws this season, 1 for 14 on pass attempts 20 yards or more. So if you can get a little tight in your coverage, maybe that's more press man coverage from Michael Coates. You like the way that he, Jason Chambers, Jordan Scruggs have been playing, so you probably feel comfortable in doing that. Maybe that's a way to go. But also, another interesting stat, because typically play action, you're finding the defense is biting down. You're getting guys more open. This is kind of the other way around for Dampier. He has a 10% better completion percentage when there is no play action. It's just straight drop back and look and scan the field. Found that kind of interesting as well. Probably the number one thing that stands out for me offensively for them, they've got 3 future NFL players along that offensive line: Lomu, Togiai, and Fanu. Fano is probably the most prominent of the 3, but that's a dynamite offensive line that they have. Kyle Whittingham believes it's the best group he's had since he's been there, and that's been over 2 decades, if that tells you anything. So, Gene, initial thoughts on this matchup between Utah's offense and West Virginia's D?
Well, listen, we have to put pressure on them. Dampier cannot. Here's a funny thing about him. This would be one of these games where if you don't pressure him and you allow him to find open receivers, his back's out of the backfield, he will. This is just one of them weird freaking games where this will be the game where he, if you let him, he'll throw for 200 yards.
Yeah.
And that's not what I want. So I personally think the mindset for the West Virginia defense is let's go in and handle business up front because they have such a good offensive line that work really, really well in tangent. They run block well, they pass protect well. But because he's not really a downfield throwing threat, at least not at this particular point, that doesn't mean that he can't do it. And see, that's the tricky thing about this type of quarterback. Doesn't mean he can't do it.
This could be the week he goes 4 for 5, and you're like, what the hell have we been watching on tape?
Okay. And that's the thing that's kind of scary. So to negate all of that, I think we have our corners and our safeties play well enough. They play man well enough where you can play a little man off. You can play a straight man if you want. You can play, some of these different packages. I really believe I don't really want, Utah to think that they can throw the ball whenever they want to. I really want to pressure this quarterback. I really want him to understand that they're going to bring or be in a position to expect different blitz packages, which kind of keep him off balance. That would be my approach defensively, to be honest with you. I don't need him sitting back there even thinking that he's going to have a clean pocket. I'm probably going to this probably will be the most that I'm going to create different blitz packaging and different schemes and hide my coverages because you have to apply pressure when you can. And I think consistent. That would be my game plan. If I'm the DC and I'm Zach Alley, that will be my game plan.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you do blitz him. He's 32 for 38 for 336 and 4 tuds when blitzed. When he's under pressure, like most quarterbacks, this is not like an alarming stat. He's 50%, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Yep.
When he's not blitzed, he's 64%, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. So again, if your corners who have been pretty reliable through this point, through the first 4 games, if they can hold up in coverage and you can get pushed with 4, which I guess good luck with this offensive line. It's a tall task. Then that's where you're really making hay and making Dampier be in an uncomfortable spot because he doesn't have the ability to just find the open spots in the zones or whatever because you're dropping 7 or 8 guys, but he can make you pay if you blitz him. So you got to be careful with that. And also another reason why that he's probably so damn dangerous with that is Dallin Bentley, their tight end.
Yeah. No, yeah.
He is one of the best tight ends in the country. And I think he's an NFL prospect. I don't know where the draft boards have him. I think he's going to be a very solid NFL player. And he's an easy check down, reliable target for him, a security blanket for him. And again, partially why they're so elite on third down. Gene, they are ridiculous on third down conversions. 61% is what they're converting. That's 7th nationally. That's a little problematic. Now, to West Virginia's defense, no pun intended, they've been pretty good about getting off the field. They've been forcing teams in third down situations. But if they get in third manageable, more often than not, they're gonna find a way to convert that thing. So to me, it comes back to, can you neutralize the run game? Last week it probably wasn't the best performance against the run, but it's not like it wasn't a terrible thing that they put on tape. But if you can neutralize the run game and force Dampier to drop back 30 plus times, you probably feel pretty good about your chances, at least limiting what they can do offensively. I'm not sure it wins you the game, but at least gives your offense a chance to stay in the game.
Right. No, I agree. But see, these are things that, like I said, a game like this, you're coming in your double-digit underdogs at home. Sounds, again, a little bit hyperbolic, but what do you have to lose when it comes to exotic blitz packaging because that's something that they may not even expect.
And what is Zach Alley known for?
Come on,
Constantly changing the picture, giving a whole different game plan every single week. If there's a guy that can
absolutely.
do it, it's him.
No doubt about it. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying, that I believe Zach Alley is one of the best coordinators, defensive coordinators in this business.
Oh, yeah.
So when it comes to understanding the task at hand, he's one of the best. So there's no doubt in my mind that he'll put together a comprehensive defensive scheme to do exactly what he needs to not allow this to be a double-digit victory for Utah. So I'm good with understanding what needs to happen. Now here's the catch 22. You can put together whatever scheme you want. We still have to execute it.
Damn right. Speaking of executing, tackling again. I mean, it's become a theme here, and we had heard all camp long that they were tackling well, and
Right.
there was kind of this concern that maybe they just didn't have enough playmakers in offense. Maybe that's starting to become the truth as well. So, they had 15 missed tackles against Kansas. They're averaging 16.3 missed tackles per game since the Ohio game. So in the FBS only games, not throwing in Robert Morris, you got
Right.
to cut that number in half. I mean, as good and as salty as this defense has been, if they get down to 8, 9, just get that thing down to single digits. I mean, I know we're really nitpicking here with the defense, but we've got to find ways to improve on all sides. That's one thing for me that has to get better. Another thing, as we mentioned with Dallin Bentley, the tight end, you need better play out of your linebackers this week. You need Fred Perry to stay in the game for the entirety of the full 60 minutes, right? No targeting, leading with the head. We knew about this at Jack State. You even told me, he's like, these guy's a headhunter now. He's going to lay the wood. Sometimes gets him in trouble like it did last week.
Yeah.
Hopefully he learned his lesson and doesn't have that happen again, because they're going to need him to be a big part in what they do to cover up Dallin Bentley. The linebackers have to be much better. Ben Cutter, Reed Carrico, Chase Wilson, all three of those guys did not play winning football, in my opinion, last week. If they
Yeah.
get back to that, you got a chance.
It was tough, and I agree with you 100%. You're going to have to. But see, and again, that's at every level. That's up front with the big boys up front. That's second level with the linebackers. That's third level with, getting into the secondary with the safeties and in your corners or whatever, coming up for run support. Once again, to a man, everybody has to do their job.
Yeah.
And I believe if they do, we will have a chance to turn this thing around and win the game. So again, this is not me saying that West Virginia don't have a chance to win this game, but what I am saying, all these things has to happen in unison to have a chance to win this game. They have to play good up front. They have to have better play from the linebackers. They have to be really, really sticky in the secondary to win this football game, because Utah can put up numbers. Let's be clear about that.
Especially now. This ain't the old Utah offense that struggles to get to 20.
No, they can put up numbers. So I think we have an opportunity here, which once again, these are the type of games that you come to a big time university to play in. These are those type of games.
Yeah. Some of the other numbers here before we flip the spin the block here. Red zone success, they're 26th in the country, 94%. They've only allowed 16 pressure. We talked about how good that offensive line is, only 3 sacks. Part of that, of course, is Dampier doing his thing as well, holding up his end of the bargain. But as far as playmakers are concerned, Ryan Davis, probably their Z receiver, is probably the guy that you want to key in on. I don't know how Zach Alley's going to treat this. Is Michael Coates going to follow him from one side of the field to the other? Are they going to play left and right? I don't know. That kind of changes maybe week to week. I really haven't studied it that closely, but
Right.
he's probably the one to watch. And then in the backfield, they have 2 guys pretty much around the same stature, 5'10", 205, and Wayshawn Parker and Naquari Rogers. Both can do some damage there too, along with Devin Dampier. So a lot of people to account for, but I said this last week, I like the matchup with the defensive side of the ball, not so much the offense, but I do feel good about the defensive side because, one, you're healthier on that side, and you have
Right.
Zach Alley calling things up, scheming it up. The corners have played well. It's just going to come down to, can you win enough up front? That offensive line is so damn good, Gene. It's, if you can
It's
find a way to
scary.
get pressure with four, hallelujah. But if not, you could be in for a bit of a rough day. So let's go ahead and flip it to the other side here. West Virginia's offense, Utah's defense. Let's start with Utah, and then we'll get into West Virginia. We already mentioned about John Henry Daly and his 21 pressures, 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Talk about a guy that's probably foaming at the mouth right now, watching this West Virginia tape and seeing the struggles they're having up front. Yeah, he's probably salivating, excited about this one, wide eyes, like you said earlier about the running backs getting, not being able to sleep at night. That's probably John Henry Daly this week when he sees that West Virginia offensive line. Safety Jackson Benny, 3 interceptions. He ripped one away in the end zone last week from a Texas Tech receiver that was clearly going to be a touchdown, and he just ripped it from him. Had a nice interception there. He played pretty physical. As always, Utah is going to be physical up front. Doesn't also bode well for this West Virginia O-line that has struggled, that's got pushed around by lesser competition. So how do you combat that? We'll get to that here in a second. And then obviously their secondary as well been very sticky. I think that's our word of the day here, sticky pass coverage. But they've been very, very sticky. So offensively, Gene, let's go ahead and talk about it. Quarterback situation. Nico, we don't know his status. We know
Right.
Jalen's healthy. We know the other guys are there and available. If all guys are there and available, what's your game plan? How do you split this thing up? Do you go multiple quarterbacks? What's your game plan?
Well, if all is equal, I'll probably start out with Nico. Again, if all is equal, for about a series or two. That's looking. And then I wouldn't wait too long to go to Jalen Henderson. I wouldn't wait too long. And reason why I say that, you're going to need a switch up at some point because he allows to put pressure on the defense with his legs, which you're going to need, and to the point of having our backs. Everybody's not available, so you're gonna have to try to manufacture some plays on the ground. I think that Jalen Henderson gives you that option. So I'll start out with Nico. Like I said, first 1 to 2 series. Let me see how that's going, and then I'm going to throw Henderson in there. That would be my game plan, and hopefully script the plays to a point where I know that my offensive line is struggling, so I'm going to do some things to help them out. We're going to implement heavy screens this week.
Oh yeah, you got to get the ball out fast as hell, Gene. I mean,
We're
Utah.
going, yeah.
We already talked about John Henry, but he's got some buddies too. He's got Logan Fano, Dallas
Yep,
Vakalahi. There's a couple other guys on here. Lander Barton, that linebacker. They have
yep,
68 pressures on the season. 68 pressures in 4 games. That's 13th in the country. If I'm
yeah.
Jack
That's
Becknell,
insane.
I'm thinking, I'm just throwing my hands up thinking, what the hell am I going to do? Because I don't know how to combat this. Hopefully, like you said, Rich has got some things dialed up in the quick game to kind of get past that, but that pressure is going to be a very big problem.
Well, listen, again, how do you negate pressure when you got people in your face all the time? Screen. I say screen. You got to screen because at the end of the day, that quick game has to happen. And if you're not screening them to death, you're talking about quick slants. So there has to be things that, first off, they're high percentage, passes where you're not going to be too concerned with throwing the ball too far down the field where it could be a pick or whatever, or you take the chance of being sacked. So I would really start that part of my game. I'm going to implement that a little bit early. I'm not
Yeah.
going to wait to the third, fourth quarter to start throwing screens. I'm going to implement that because just the threat of throwing a good screen, no matter what it is, tunnel screen, middle screen, you have to have that, in your offensive repertoire this week because you already know you're having some problems up front, and you know how good their defensive front is. So why have my offensive line in there sweating bullets? Let me help you out a little bit. And that comes in the form of play calling. And that comes in the form of giving you some things that can really help you to kind of keep them off balance a little bit up front.
Yeah, and look, Jalen can throw the football. I don't know where this narrative is coming from, unless it's just from box, score readers that just look at the stat sheet and say, he's got a whatever completion percentage, and just assume that he can't throw the football. No, he can throw the football. Watch his Texas A&M tape. He can
Yeah.
do it. He did it again in the bowl. Well, he had only played one play in the bowl game, but he did it against I think it was LSU. He started the last handful of games for them a couple of years ago at A&M, and he did his thing. He spread the ball around. He put up like 30 some points against LSU.
Yeah,
And
he can throw the ball.
and you look at some of the throws that he's had this year, and I talked about this again earlier in the week, but some of those were drops. I mean, just flat out drops. And there may be one or two errant passes that he had, but it's not like he's missing completely every single time and you just hold your breath every time he drops back to throw. That's not for me. Maybe it is
Right.
for some other people, but I have confidence that he can do it. Now, Scotty Fox, Khalil Wilkins, they both now kind of got their feet wet a little bit. Is it
Right.
time we get one of those back in the mix here? I don't know. But I think in this game specifically, because of Utah and how good they are defensively consistently, Morgan Scalley, Kyle Whittingham, they do a really good job of developing talent, scheming things up, calling the game right. I don't know if I'm putting Scotty or Khalil out there in this game. I think if you got Jalen going and he's playing well enough, you probably just play him. If Nico's healthy, then okay, now you have two options there with the veterans. Let those guys handle it. You don't want these young bucks to get ruined by bad offensive line play in a scary damn defense, a damn scary defense in a game like this.
Absolutely. No, I agree 1 billion%. Absolutely not. Why would you?
Yeah.
If your two upperclassmen are able to handle their business, then I'm gonna leave the young pups on the bench. This is not for you. Not to say that they can't do it, but why even put them in that position?
Right. And we've talked about the running back situation. You've got to find some yardage there. If you can't run the ball, Rich Rod's offenses typically don't do well. So if you could, how are you going to get to 100 yards? I know some people say, the benchmark really could be 150 for this offense, or maybe even 200 with Rich
Mhm.
Rod. I don't think you're getting 200 if Ty Edwards and Sincere Bowers are out. So how can you just get to 100 and pray to God that you can drag Utah into a rock fight where you can maybe win 20-17 or something like that? I don't know. But to me, maybe the one thing I guess I could say is you can use the screen game, the quick pass game with Cam
Absolutely.
Vaughn, with Rodney Gallagher, with Man Singleton as
Right.
part of the run game. And I feel like, anyways, those two guys, Gallagher and Vaughn specifically, they have to get more involved. They have to get more touches. What do you think?
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Those are your playmakers, and you have to find listen, you have to find a way to get the ball into your playmakers' hands, period. Gallagher as well. I really like that young man. I think he's gritty. I think he's tough. I think he knows how to, with the ball in his hands, he's going to get you those extra yards. He's going to fight for those extra yards. Those three receivers right there have to have the ball in their hands this week more times than not. If you have a semblance of a chance of winning this football game, at least one of those three receivers are going to have close to 100-yard day.
Yeah.
They're going to have to.
And it's
Because I think, and they can. It's not like they can't. That takes so much pressure off of everything else if they're performing, and if you get the ball into their hands, let them make plays in open space.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and for Cam, it's going to be a chore because every team is going to be targeting him to, take him out of the game. I'm not saying obviously the targeting hit. I'm, game planning, I should say, that they're going to find a way to, get man press coverage in on him, and then probably have a safety shaded over top towards his direction. That's what they're going to do. Utah plays a lot of man coverage. That's what they're
Yeah.
known to do. So are you trusting him to win those matchups mano a mano? Yeah, maybe some, but I think too, I would do some formations where you got twins or trips out there. You give them a little help. Maybe it's a rub and kind of, allow him to sprint free in the middle of the field, or you do the RPOs, the drag routes. There are ways to get him open, but I think it's more going to come in those formations where you have maybe trips out there to give him a little help blocking,
Right.
and it's not just him out there on an island with somebody.
Right. Put him in yo-yo motion where just out of that particular motion itself, you already got the defensive player in trail position. And all he needs is a step. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
All that Joker needs is a step. And these are things that you can create by formation. So I think that offensively, West Virginia has to be a lot more creative this week in trying to pick their matchups and their mismatches with these receivers. And I think, again, if they do that, it could be quite interesting. But again, if they don't do that, it could be quite interesting.
It certainly will.
Just saying.
It certainly will. So, time for our weekly pick'ems. And Gene, I'm telling you, I'm going to try to convince you every single week we should just retire this segment because it is not going so well for us this year, brother. I'll tell you, 6-14 for your boy, and 8-12 for you. So
yeah.
We're not in mid-season form just yet.
It's so bad that my wife offered to help me out.
Hey, maybe I need to do the same. Next week, I'm going to go ask Madeline, hey, give me your picks for this week and see what happens. And if that works, maybe that's just what I need to do from here on out. So, and look, I already know people have been getting on me about picking West Virginia last week. I'm the hex around here. I get that. So maybe you'll like the pick this week. We'll see. We'll get to that here in a second. So let's start it off here in the Big 12. This is a Friday night action game. At 9 p.m., we got number 24 TCU at Arizona State. This is a really damn good football game. I love that it's on a standalone time at 9 o'clock on a Friday night. We'll get to watch this one. I like both teams. I think this could be a very high-scoring game.
Right.
Josh Hoover, Sam Leavitt, two of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. I'm going to lean with Arizona State, because I still have my concerns about TCU's run game. It's kind of been there. Kavorian Barnes is somewhat dangerous. But I like Arizona State's rushing attack better. I think they have more things to complement the pass game, so I'm going to go with ASU. Fork up.
Okay, well, see, that's probably where you're going to mess up right there, because I'm going with the home. Look, TCU for me is they got this thing going. I really do like their defense, their collective defensive unit. They play so salty.
Oh, yeah.
They play so, yeah. So that's where I'm at. Give me TCU. It's going to be a good game, though, because I do like Arizona State as well, but I like TCU in this matchup.
How about this one, Gene? Number 4 LSU at number 13 Ole Miss, 3:30 ABC. I don't know if you've heard about this, but apparently, I don't know if it's confirmed yet, but Lane Kiffin's daughter is maybe not dating Whit Weeks, the LSU linebacker. And there's been some tweets going on from Lane Kiffin kind of going on with this joke. And, well, I don't know if it's a joke, maybe serious. But, hey, pretty interesting matchup there. So, Whit Weeks, can he get the dub here against potentially girlfriend's dad? I'm going to say no. I'm going to go Ole Miss. Papa's pissed. And the Lane Sharks or whatever the heck they do down there in Ole Miss, I think they're going to be ready to go. This is a huge atmosphere for them. It's an opportunity to get that signature win. Going in a tough environment for LSU. It's not Death Valley, but they're not going to have the fans in their support. So I'm going to go Ole Miss with the upset.
Now look at that. Now see, now you're getting back on the winning schneid.
Ah,
I'm gonna do the same. That's right. I got Ole Miss circle because you're 100% right. LSU going in there, that's a little bit different vibe. And like you said, old Pop's a little bit upset. So I'm going with Ole Miss, baby. Absolutely.
Hey, you don't mess with a man's girl. I can tell you that for sure. I know that. So let's move on to the Big Ten here. It's a massive game here. College game day will be there. Number 6, Oregon at number 3, Penn State. Probably not a college football playoff eliminator, but could definitely play some implications here with the seeding and Big Ten championship and all that. That'll be at 7:30 on NBC or Peacock. I don't know, Gene. I mean, I've been back and forth on this one because I keep being told in the back of my head when West Coast teams come east, it's usually never fares well. But then I think that's more so in the when it's a daytime game versus a night game. I think they're going to be amped up, juiced for this one. It just feels like Penn State. It always feels like it's their year to finally break through that proverbial glass ceiling, and that's going to be their year. It's
Right.
again for them this year. I just don't. I just can't get there with Penn State. I'm crazy picking Oregon here, going into Happy Valley, but until James Franklin proves me wrong, I'm going to keep going against him.
No, I feel you. And listen, that's a solid pick. I'm with you. I was going back and forth with this as well. It's going to be a hell of a football game. But I can't go against, although I really don't want to pick them. I'm just thinking, just from a football's perspective, Penn State this year is showing me something a little bit different.
Okay.
And their physicality is something a little bit different. Not that Oregon is not physical. I just don't think going into Death Valley that they're gonna get the dub. You know, I just think Penn State is playing too well right now. So I'm going to go with the Nittany Lions on this one.
Back into the SEC, number 17, Alabama, number 5, Georgia, at 7:30 on ABC. This is usually a game where you're like, ooh, this is damn good. And it very well could be still a good game. It just probably lacks the star power and the hype around it, probably more so just because Nick Saban's not there. And that's why I'm going to lean with Georgia here. I'm not huge on the Bulldogs this year. I think I said it a couple weeks ago. I could see them losing 2 or 3 games. But
Right.
Kirby Smart is an elite game planner. He knows how to make adjustments during the game as well. Kalen DeBoer is still trying to figure things out down there in Tuscaloosa, so I'm going to go with the Dogs.
Dude, give me them dogs.
Oh.
There it is. That's where I'm going. I mean, this used to be a marquee matchup. It's no longer a marquee matchup. I don't think anybody's no longer afraid of what Bama's bringing to town. Whatever, Bama Smammer. Give me them dogs. I'm going with Georgia.
And for the game you're all here for, it is Utah and West Virginia. The Mountaineers will be paying homage to the 1965 team this weekend. It's Hall of Fame weekend. Pat McAfee, Bill Kirelawich, Bill Stewart going into the Hall of Fame. It's a great weekend. Can the Mountaineers pull out a dub this weekend in Morgantown?
Obviously got a very big physical experienced Utah team coming in. I think that offensively they've changed a little bit, obviously, with the new coordinator and the new quarterback. They're a lot more spread, doing a lot of different quarterback run stuff, and really creative. And everybody, I know everybody, Dampier, everybody was looking at him, because he was a dynamic player last year at New Mexico, and he's helped, I think, transform their offense this year as well. And defensively, with Morgan being there, they've been very similar over the years. They've changed some stuff from whatever it was 10 years ago when I was playing them when I was at Arizona, but they still very big, physical, get after you type. So we've got to have a good week of practice. Know their coaches and their program very well, and got a lot of respect for Kyle and what he's done over the years.
3:30 is the kickoff for the Mountaineers and the Utes. It'll be televised on Fox. Last week, let's back it up here for a second. 2 weeks ago, I went with Pitt in West Virginia won. Last week, I went with West Virginia and Kansas won. Heck, we could even go back 3 weeks. I picked West Virginia and Ohio won. So maybe this is a sign that I am the Hex. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. But you're going to like my pick here today if that is the case, because I'm going Utah. I just don't see how West Virginia can muster up enough offense to hang with this team. And it's not like that Utah is going to be going out there and putting up 40 points in the Zach Alley defense, but 20 feels like 40 for this offense. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't see a way where the quarterback situation works out in time. They figure out the right division of labor there. You find out where the answer is going to come at running back. The offensive line's banged up, and it's already inconsistent as it is. So, yeah, man, I hate to do it, but I'm going to go with Utah, and I think they win big.
You know what I hate about this, and what just it's tough when I look at this game and I look at Utah's already double-digit favorite coming into Morgantown.
That doesn't happen very often.
No, it does not. And you know how much I love my Mountaineers. Everybody knows that. But just being smart about this and understanding with all the injuries, with all of, just the inconsistencies, and I'll talk about in key parts of the game, offensive line, quarterback question mark, running backs question mark. On defense, you really don't know, the 16 plus tackles per game that we're missing. All these things, not playing too well in the last few weeks on special teams. All of these things.
Yep.
And still. I am still here to tell the truth. So with that being said, I'm going to have to go against my Mountaineers for this.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go with W there. Hey, I get it. These picks, apparently this year, they're precious. So you need to be smart with them. And, I think that's the wise play this week.
Well, for my Mountaineer faithful, let me just say, it pains me deeply.
Yeah. And look, we're not making these picks saying this is what we want to have happen. We've stated, when I said with the pit prediction, we're just telling you what we think is going to happen. Now, beyond that, if you start making up some ridiculous thing that we want West Virginia to lose every week and we're here to rat on them, you're wrong.
Absolutely not.
You're wrong. So, end of story. That's going to do it for us here today on the Walk Thru GameDay Show. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and also put your picks in the comment section. You go 5 for 5. You get Gene's autograph picture from back in the late 80s, rushing that thing for the Mountaineers. So be sure to do that and not miss out on your opportunity. And we will be back on Saturday night or Saturday evening for the Mountaineer Postgame Show to recap what goes down between West Virginia and Utah. So thank you guys for tuning in for another week. You're on the Walk Thru GameDay Show. For Eugene Napoleon, I'm Schuyler Callihan. We'll see you back here on Saturday.